things that singles over 50 need to know, but shockingly don't. I say shockingly because people that know it are shocked. If you don't know it, you're not shocked. Then you look back and laugh. I can't believe I didn't know this. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Once again, I'm so happy to welcome back Joni Caldwell Lerner, the author of Stop, Look, Choose, and the creator of the brand new course, Dating Reboot, Real Love After 50. Joni, thanks for being here again.
Well, thank you for having me. You know how much I appreciate you and the show, and you're a big inspiration for the course itself, you and your viewers. So thank you for that too.
Oh, well, you're welcome. And I look forward to talking about it more because you do offer so much of the advice that we're all looking for. So, what I'd like to talk to you about today is just the things that singles over 50 need to know, but shockingly don't. I say shockingly because people that know it are shocked. If you don't know it, you're not shocked. Then you look back and laugh. I can't believe I didn't know this. Let's go ahead and just get to number one, that most singles over 50 are still using outdated dating strategies. Well, that makes sense. If you're coming back on, do we go back to high school? How do you work with your clients on that?
So it's a new day and age. We really get a do-over. We get a second chance, if you will. I approach it that way. That dating is an adventure. It's not a chore. It's not a have to. You really don't have to. So to reframe how they're looking at it, that's really important. And no, you don't go back to 1970 or 75 or whatever it is. It's a completely different world. We want to bring them up to date and up to speed. And here's the thing, a lot of people start dating, they think they're alone in it. Mm-hmm. And they have to reinvent the wheel and they have to figure all this stuff out. That's why you do your channel. That's why I do what I do, is to help people not have to reinvent the wheel.
Right. And of course, the biggest difference is, is the dating landscape. I mean, obviously, we did not have the technology we do now. And that can be very intimidating. And we'll get into more detail on that, as we go down the line here. Well, number two is online dating is not optimal. It's essential. And that while people may not like it, and I know a lot of you out there right now are going, oh God, I'm never going to online date. Why are they talking about that again? It is an essential part of the dating mix today if you're serious about finding someone, I think.
Well, it's incredibly important. One assumes that a person of my age is already in a relationship or connected. In other words, if I'm out and about, people don't approach me. They don't say, hey, can I have your phone number? Ever. I can't remember. I was approached one time in a bar once, but it was the online dating where I found the connections. It was the online dating where I got my mojo back and I figured out who I was at this age, dating in this world. What we want to do is say, yes, it is work. Make sure that you have very current photos, that you have photos that have you doing things that are in your life, whether it's hiking or horseback riding or kayaking or the dogs in your life. And I'm begging you, usually it's the women who do this. They put on photos that are 10 or 15 years ago. And when they show up at the restaurant or the coffee place or something, they're like, you don't look anything like yourself. If you're 10 or 15 pounds overweight and that is part of who you are in this moment, then have pictures with your full body. You have nothing to apologize for. There's nothing to hide. Here I am, folks. This is it.
Well, you actually brought us to point three, which is that your photos might be killing you or hurting you. And you're right. Well, it goes right along with online dating. So let me just make 2 points on that. First off, with the online dating and the resistance to it, it's interesting because of all the resistance that we get on the channel here, we've done episodes on meeting in real life. There's all kinds of resistance. Well, this can't work and that can't work. And how do you know they're single? So what I've noticed is that people who are resistant, they're resistant to everything, to where when it goes back to mindset, you need to change your mindset. And I fully acknowledge that online dating can be one big pain in the ass, but it is easy to find the scammers if you just know what you're doing. And if people, if you find a bunch of jerks, you can get past all that. But
Right.
otherwise, it is an essential tool.
Right. So to pull a thread on that, folks, just be greater than 1% open. You don't have to fly your doors open and say, I'm vulnerable and come get me. Just be 1%, greater than 1% open to this could work. This could be a way for you to meet someone. And then going to your point, yes, there are scammers. Oh my gosh, when a person doesn't have more than a couple of photos, when they look one of the things that they do often is they use a man in uniform to
Yes.
catch women. It's
Yes.
interesting
And
to
doctors
pray.
in white
And
coats
doctors.
with the
Oh,
stethoscope. So now we already told you something to look for. I mean, that's what I'm saying, that it becomes so obvious that, to me, that's almost not that you shouldn't worry about it, but you just need to be aware of it.
yeah,
That should not be an objection. The
yeah,
main objection, and I totally get that, is you run into a lot of jerks. And I mean that for both male and female. This goes both ways. We're
sure.
two women talking, but it is an essential tool. And I swear to God, every couple I've met that has met in the last years, and I live in a retirement community, 55 plus, they all met online. They all
Hmm.
met online. Just last week, 71 and 73, they got married 2 weeks ago. They met online 3 years ago. So
Oh,
it does work. I know people say it doesn't work, and I'm going to shut up about it now. But like you said, Joni, 1% that it might work.
be open. And
Yeah.
here's one last thing on that. If you have a friend who has gone through the dating process online, ask that person over to your house and say, here are the pictures I want to use. Help me build this program. Help me. And
Mhm.
then actually have them come over and sit with you. Could be your sister. My sister's the one that did this for me. I was terrified to put out a profile. Get a team. You don't have to do this alone.
Or coach like yourself. And we're not trying to plug Joni right now, but that's a fact. There's
Plug
lots of
me.
people.
No.
Yeah. There's lots of people out there that can help.
Yeah, even just moral support. I'm going to push the button right now. Will you come sit with me? Will you be on the phone with me while I do this? I'm going to press send. It takes.
I'm going to give you a really funny story, just really, really quick. I met Paul online. I've said that a lot of times, but the actual person who pushed the button, who winked at him, was my friend. I wasn't going to wink at him because I thought he looked like a player. And she goes, "My God, that guy's so cute. I'm going to wink at him." It's like, Stephanie, you didn't wink at him. I did. And thank you, Stephanie. Anyway,
Yeah, so
enough
that's so
about
that's a great point. You have a preconceived notion about this guy because he's
yes.
so handsome, or with his twinkly blue eyes. I mean, I've seen him online. He's a very handsome man, but he's a real human being. And had you not winked, you never would have met him.
Yeah, never think you're not good enough, too. That's another good lesson there.
Oh, let's just spend an
Next.
hour on that. Never think you're not good enough. You are all good enough.
Well, and that's the other good thing I would keep talking about online. But on online, you can go after people you normally would never approach on the street. You don't know what can happen. So you get rejected. They won't wink back. Okay, so what? They don't know you. But you have
Mhm.
so many other things that you can do online that, well, that would be very difficult to have those opportunities in real life.
When I met John, so people
Mm-hmm.
know John is my partner,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't take good pictures. If I went off the pictures and not what he was saying, the flavor and the nuances of him really reading my profile and then
Mm-hmm.
responding back to it and all that, I never would have responded to
Right.
him. Then I
Right.
met him in person. I was like, oh my God, you're so cute.
The
Wisdom.
point is you can learn from other people's experience, and there's so many
Absolutely.
stories out there that'll be helpful and kind of fun too. Anyway, on to the next point, that your checklist could be keeping you single, that perfect person that you want to check every box, one, doesn't exist, or two, if you find him or her, you may not get along with them. I mean, the checklist can be a big obstacle.
Okay, so here we are at the checklist again. A checklist is like a treasure hunt. It's transactional. I'm going to go hunting for the perfect man. I'm going to go hunting for the perfect woman. And it is not, I'm going to show up loving and see who comes into my life. That's completely different. If I show up loving, now, and I've said this before on this program that I did have a list, but it wasn't a list of he has to be this tall, he has to have blue eyes, it wasn't like that. It was somebody who sees me,
Mhm.
somebody who is a partner, somebody
Mhm.
who's active. They were sort of general. And what I tell people is if you make your list, make sure you're everything on that list. Work on yourself. Always it's about working on yourself. At the same time, just accepting yourself.
The checklist is there's a difference between the kind of checklist you just described and just knowing what you want.
Mhm.
And if when you figure out what you want, it's value based. That's what ultimately is going to, make the connection and keep it there. And that's a hard thing for people to learn at first. And I was prone to that. I mean, I look at the pictures. I had things up here. Yeah,
We
go ahead.
are hardwired for mating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how old you are.
Right.
At this point in life, and at this point in life, really, the only thing is, does this person add value to my life?
Mm-hmm.
Do I
Mm-hmm.
add value to his life? Are our values aligned? Because if they're not, eventually the seams will start to pull apart.
The next point here, which is settling isn't safer, it's just a slow burn to resentment. But then the difference again is when is it settling and when is it good enough? Because sometimes good enough is absolutely good enough. I think that's a really interesting point.
So this is one of those questions. If I'm settling, that means I am not respecting the values by which I live. It's more important for me to have a body. The ego part of us is, I have to have a body, a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
In the society, it's often thought that, couples are more valuable somehow, which is complete bunk. If somebody doesn't have the same views, if they're not kind to
Mm-hmm.
people, if they are mean to me, if they say things that are meant to harm me or hurt me in some way,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep putting up with that stuff, I'm settling.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay. I have to trust that it's better to be alone than to be with that person.
Right. To me, it's kind of simple if I get it right, but it's that settling is giving up on your values, which you just described, and good enough is giving up on that checklist. That
Yes.
the stuff that doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think we're going to do a segment on what is good enough, what it really is, and when because it's something that comes up over and over and over again when you talk about settling. Then this is interesting too, that dating over 50 isn't about finding someone to complete you. And I think you alluded to that in the last point. It's about finding someone, who's right for you, who matches you. Let's talk about that a little more.
Anytime someone is looking to be completed, I don't care
Mm-hmm.
what decade they are dating, if they're looking to be completed, what the inherent message in that is that I'm not enough, that there's something missing in me, that I need to be made whole. And the truth is, my opinion is that I am whole, he is whole, and we come together and
Together.
create this synergistic more.
Yeah.
And everything that is right about me and John has to do with communication because he's not perfect. I am.
Of course. Yeah.
He's not perfect, nor am I. But our communication is good. And so if imperfections and little cracks try to come into the
Yeah.
relationship, just
Yeah.
nip it in the bud.
Right. The other thing I think that's important to be aware of now is whether you're coming out of a divorce or if you've lost your spouse, that it's not necessarily to complete you, but replace is also something that I've seen a lot, and that
Ooh,
doesn't, yeah, that's a temporary thing.
amazing point. I don't care if you're divorced or, God forbid, you've lost someone. You will not recreate that relationship. You will not replace the spouse lost in
Right.
whatever manner.
Mm-hmm.
Start fresh, reboot. That's one of the reasons it's called
Right.
reboot.
And yeah, again, be in that mindset, understand what you want and make sure you're ready. Your mindset and dating readiness is just key to making this work.
Yes.
Finally, Joni, I love this point that chemistry grows. It does not have to be instant. And that's one of the hardest things for people to accept, especially when you're online dating, when you haven't had the ability to maybe meet somebody in their own environment.
It's interesting because there is a excitement when you first come together. It's a different energy. My friend, a lady who lives here, we were talking about this the other day about how as we get to know people and love them, they become more beautiful. And I think that's true in romantic relationships also.
I get that that's a point. Like, no, I have to be attracted to somebody. Why go? I get it, but I also get, and I've personally gone through this, that when I look at the longer relationships I've had, they all started, that attraction grew. It was
Yeah.
not this poof. Anytime I felt the spark just poof on the first date, those
Yeah.
did not last longer than a couple of weeks.
Well, there has to be some sort of attraction to
Mm-hmm.
begin with, or you wouldn't go
Right.
on the date to begin with. There has to be some sort of attraction, whether it's their sense of humor, their kindness,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, it
Some
doesn't matter.
curiosity. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the starting point.
Well, Joni, like I said in the beginning, your course addresses all this. We will link to your course in the show notes, as well as to your book right there. It's a great template to understanding who you are, where you are, and what it is that you really want at this point in life. I mean, is there anything that you want to add, Joni, before we close out on this?
Yes. What I want to say is don't give up. Do not give up before the miracle happens. Do what it takes, take the action, be in your life, enjoying your life, and really trust that what is meant for you will find you. It's just what's going to happen. Enjoy the journey.
Well, there's a huge part about enjoying the journey. I know you talk about that a lot as well. Hopefully, these points, sparked some thought and are helpful in your journey forward. And Joni, I look forward to our next conversation on Second Act TV.